time exists at once. For us, we're going moment by moment. And so our inner relationship with God looks like our relationship changes. Just like when we're a person talking with another person and we're having a conversation and we both are somewhat different after the conversation or after the love, relationship or after the war. I mean, you think any of those experiences, people are going to be different moment by moment, right? That's because of our finite nature, Augustine says. Whereas for God, everything all exists at once. Well, part of this is that as part of our finite nature, we have likes and dislikes. We feel good, we feel bad. We have a success, we have a failure. We have all kinds of things that we like and dislike. And is that because the things we dislike are evil? Augustine says no. God is all good and created the entire universe. By definition, then, it must be the case that the universe is entirely good, that there is no evil. So how do we account for our experiencing evil? It's our fault. It's our perspective that this is good and this is bad. We're infected with this virus that we've caught from Adam and Eve. And they got kicked out of paradise. What's that mean? They got kicked out of paradise? Because nothing was going to be perfectly good for them anymore.
But even that's good, though, right?
Well, now here, this is intriguing, because now we want to get... So you get the idea. We're the ones that, in our own minds, view something as evil. By the way, how does Jesus save us from this? He dies on the cross, suffering the most horrendous death possible, and he was totally innocent, and yet he says, Father, forgive them for their asshole. They don't know what they're doing. Sorry, I don't want to put words into Jesus' mouth. They don't know what they're doing. So forgive them. Just like Charlie Kirk's wife on stage the other day said she forgave the guy who shot her husband. And everyone I've heard says, yes, that's the Christian ideal. That's a very touching moment in all of this, right? Forgive them. Recognize the good in others, even if we think of them as evil. It's not their fault that they're evil. It's our perspective that they're evil. This doesn't work for me, by the way. I don't know very many people that... it's an incredible difficulty to view everything in the universe, what we think of as good and bad, as all good, and be okay with it. I think for the people that are able to do that, like Buddhist monks or the Christian monks or the nuns that can do that, wow, that is impressive. I'm too weak for this. Theoretically, Jesus wants you to follow him, sell everything you have, give the money to the poor, and then come follow me. Stop feeling like there's good and evil in the world and recognize everything is good. And if you can do that, you are saved from evil, because you will no longer experience evil because you've given it up. Okay, I see it. It works. And I'm sorry. There are some things I like. There's some, thank you, dear, for making this soup. I'm going to dump it as soon as I can. Reminds me of Aragorn when the maiden gives him the soup after the battle and takes a spoonful of it, and as soon as she walks away, he goes, you remember that scene? Don't like some things, right? I don't know how you can actually follow Jesus and see everything is good. But yet, he's absolutely right, isn't he? If you don't see evil anymore, you are saved from evil, because it's gone. At least that's the way I think Augustine explains what Jesus has done for us. Difficult. Following Jesus is difficult, maybe impossible. But of course, that's why lots of followers of Augustine follow the rule of Augustine, which is an attempt to give up. He gives up his wife.
Gives up his what?
His wife.
His wife?
Yeah. He had given her up. He became a Christian because he was convinced that any kind of enjoyable thing was a burden that kept you from giving up evil as well, right? You have good things, then the evil is there as well, right? Now here's an interesting problem, though. And he discusses this with Jerome and others, by the way, of course, and that is free will. I believe this is the first place where free will comes up as a point to make, and that's because if you sin, which you will do, of course, if you're a typical human with the same original sin that we inherit from Adam and Eve. And by the way, he gets in, if you're curious at how this works, he and Jerome discuss, do the souls of each of us come from our parents' souls? And their souls came from their parents' souls, and those souls came from, etc. So basically our souls are the souls of Adam and Eve being passed on, and of course they committed the sin. So even an infant has original sin, which if you're curious why Catholics like to baptize kids as soon as they, let's quick run down to church, so you might not know exactly when Beethoven was born, but you can look at the records and he was baptized on this day, so he was born probably the day or before, or 2 days, at most 2 days before. So they can date the birth of somebody based on the church records of when they were baptized. In Europe, at least, right? Is this fun? You guys all having fun? This is exciting stuff to me. But it looks like I'm boring most of you to death. I don't know. But free will. How many of you have free will? Raise your hand if you have free will.
Today's society.
Isn't that funny? Oh, we all have to raise our hand. Everybody raises their hand. You didn't raise your hand.
It's complicated.
Yeah. You're telling me, no, I'm not going to do that. So obviously you do have free will.
Well, did I actually decide to not raise my hand? Or was that decision defaulted?
I know. Well, this problem gets worse because God is omniscient, omniscience, omniscient. He knows everything. So he not only knows all of time, he knows your past, but he also knows your future. So he knows exactly what choice you're going to make when you sin. He knows it. That's his fault, isn't it? He created you. He created everything. Everything's working exactly as God knows already that it will, or has already. And as a result, he knows exactly what choice you're going to make. And since he made you and he made the whole situation, isn't it his fault that you sinned? And is it right for him to punish you for sinning? That sounds pretty evil, doesn't it? Why should I be punished when I'm doing exactly what I was made to do in the first place? Well, Augustine's answer to this is that even though God knows exactly what you're going to do, it's still your fault because you have free will. And you make that choice. God knows what choice you're making, and you're going to make, and will always have been making. But nonetheless, you're the one that's making the choice. So you're guilty for what you do that's wrong. But the good thing, of course, is you're rewarded for the things you do that are right, that are loving, that are full of grace. Okay, so there's this word, grace. God's grace. Things are hopeless unless you have God's grace. It's kind of neat that, for Socrates, one of the things Socrates we know he did, he was a sculptor, and he sculpted a statue of the three graces. Did I show you the three graces? There's lots of artists that want to make the three graces.
I think you did.
I might have. There's three graces here. This is Primavera by Botticelli. This is the husband. Here's the wife being raped by the north wind. Here's the wife pregnant. And here's the wife on her wedding day. So that's kind of intriguing. But the three graces, for the Greeks there were three graces. Those were the three virtues of a woman in running a perfect household. Interestingly, when we go to Christianity, Mary. Mary is full of grace, so we can just marry. What is the grace in the first place? It comes from Jesus. This, of course, leads to a difficulty. What if you had died before Jesus? You couldn't have been saved. So all the souls, even Socrates and Plato, were condemned prior to Jesus. Well, the church comes up with a little solution to that and figures out that people that deserve being saved, even though they couldn't have been because Jesus didn't exist yet. Well, let's be careful there, because of course Jesus existed for all time, right? But theoretically, where did they go? They went. They couldn't have gone to heaven. Well, maybe Jesus went and rescued them during the time that he was dead. He goes to hell and he rescues all of those, at least that deserved it, I suppose, and brings them back. That's quite a task. I'm sure he took some military lawyers with him to help check everyone out. He got that. That's all right. I have a weird sense of humor, I guess.
I think your delivery could use a little more. That's all.
That's probably that. However, where am I going then? So, you have free will. This becomes a real problem when John Calvin, who is a Middle Ages or late Middle Ages Augustinian. He's a follower of St. Augustine. And he gets really into this and concludes that individuals are predestined if you are Presbyterian or the Calvinists, that's the church that had the most problem with this thesis, is that certain individuals are predestined to be saved and others are not. And by the way, you could tell them. You can tell who's predestined to be saved because they're rich and happy. Everybody else are scumballs, slimy, sinners. So, you don't need to care about them.
Is it because they're rich?
The rich are the ones that are
You
saved.
know you have much chance of getting to heaven as a count for the odd and evil.
Ignored that. You got to selectively, pick things.